I wanted to bring in here because we had talked about the Raise Your Pints effort to legalize homebrewing in Mississippi, and I wanted to congratulate you on that. That's some big work you did down there, and obviously appreciated. And so I wanted to bring in to give us a little background on Raise Your Pints and how you got started with all of that.
Well, I started back about 2007. I actually started, guess what, a beer blog. And as I was looking for topics and started thinking and wondering why our beer selection sucked in Mississippi, and why I was having to, bootleg it in from out of state. Why did Mississippi only have one brewery at the time? And so I started researching laws and then figuring out exactly why it was that one law that was restricting us on the ABW side. And so I reached out to the Free the Hops folks, Dan and Klein down there, and I said, hey, I'd like to do something like that in Mississippi. Can I talk to you about it? And he said, hey, there's other people that have asked me the same thing. So he put us together, and we started not long after that, about 2007, same time, and submitted some bills. And this was actually our 6th year of, I guess that's right, submitting bills. And it took us a couple of years to figure out that to get anything done at the Capitol, you got to have a lobbyist, and that means you got to have a lot of money. And so we officially incorporated, come up with the name Raise Your Pints, and started working on an ABW bill. And two of the 4 of the original founders of the group were homebrewers too. So we said, while we're working on this, let's work on homebrewing too. So we made that goal number 2. And so for the longest time, we were working on 2 issues. And finally last year, in July 1st, actually last April, Governor signed the bill, and we raised the ABW cap. So now we've got up to actually 10 by volume percent beers brewed and sold in the state. So a year ago, we had 1 brewery in the state. Now we're on the verge of 6 opening up here within the next couple of months. And that's fantastic.
Some great growth.
It is. And so we've got the ABW out of the way, and then the homebrewing bill, the homebrewing issue, which, as you guys know, it's legal federally in 48 other states. And so we said, let's tackle that one too. And it became our goal number 1. And I'm original co-founder of the group, and I was VP, and Butch Bailey was our president up until July of last year. And then he stepped aside, and then I took over as president and continued to push to get homebrewing legalized. And we got it through pretty easily this year, probably easier than last year's ABW effort. And the governor signed the bill a few weeks ago, and it'll go into effect July 1st, so I can finally start homebrewing.
Awesome. Well, I mean, so I don't know much about the South and beer myself, but is there a Brewers Guild down there, or is that kind of?
There actually is one forming right now in Mississippi. They actually started a few months ago, and they still haven't even elected officers yet.
Nice.
They're trying to get it going, but all the ones that are forming, like Lazy Magnolia, and then we've got 2 breweries in Hattiesburg that one of them, they've already started brewing our beer. So those 2, and then we've got a contract brewer here in Jackson, and who's the other one? Crooked Letter, Ocean Springs, brand new brewery, and their beers just made it up here to Jackson last week, and I finally got to have my first full pints. So the heads of those breweries are getting together, and they're going to form a guild, and they're going to kind of pick up the torch and run with it, as far as the legislative side, because we've been doing this for a long time, and I'm tired. And
I mean, it's time to drink and brew beer. Damn it, you've done all this work.
Yeah, rather than free the hops, it should be drink the hops. That should be the name of the Brewers Guild. Drink the hops.
So you spent all this time fighting fighting the government for this. Is there anything that you've learned that was it harder than you thought? Was it easier than you thought?
Well, we learned that you can't go up there and say, I want this. I want, in the beginning we said, hey, I want access to better beer. I want a better beer selection. That will not fly. You have to go in there and say, here's why changing this will be good for the state. And so we changed our tone, we changed our tactics, and then went at it at economic development and tourism side. And once we did that, they really started to listen. We could say, hey, we're the last state, on ABW because we were the last state with the lowest cap. And same on the home brewing, last state. And I said, it's good, we should change it. But they wouldn't get, they really, didn't deep down care. So we found out you have to get them passionate about your cause, and you have to explain to them, here's why fixing this will benefit the state,
Yep.
tax revenue, jobs, tourism. And, once we did that, they listened. And then after we were successful, and then they see the growth from ABW beer, bill last year. And, I was up at the Capitol probably 15 to 20 times this year during the homebrew session because my day job is just a few miles from there. And, I run into politicians, and they know who I am, and they'd say, hey, well, we're ready. We're waiting on it to come to the floor so we can vote. So there, you see that change, and they became passionate about it, and they wanted to see the bill pass. And you realize that when it would come to a floor vote and it would pass, and there'd be cheers from the floor, and you realize, hey, we've done our job. We've made them want to see this stuff pass.
That's crazy.
What was the most difficult hurdle you had to go over? Because it seems like I remember reading a lot of this. Like majority of people who are mass-produced beer drinkers, I'm guessing most of the legislators were too, and from their point, they're probably looking at it, who needs a higher ABV, and why do you need to bother brewing beer at home? Was that just a big thing to get over those misconceptions and preconceived notions about what beer should be?
Well, as far as that, Alabama had a harder time with that than we did. With us, 40% of our counties are dry counties, and you've got a lot of the elected officials that, I had some tell me at evening socials with a beer in their hand, I support you, but I got to vote against you. And they would do that because they represented dry areas, and that's sad but at least they were honest and told us, what they were doing. But thankfully, we had enough votes, on both sides, the Senate and the House, to get it through.
Are all those places still dry, or did that change at all? No.
A lot of dry counties. You got, it's the Bible Belt down here, so the preachers will wake up and come out publicly and oppose, basically anything alcohol. It doesn't matter, you can try to reason with them, but it doesn't matter. It's alcohol, and quote alcohol is bad. So
that's crazy.
One of our biggest hurdles we had to face.
Oh, here's the sin.
Hey, I'll drink
come on, I had to get it in there.
There he is.
It's not Halloween.
Not yet. You do live in which city?
That's true. That's definitely a tough opponent too, right? I mean, religion and beer, it's such a long road, but I can't imagine that being a unwise opponent. I don't know.
Was it easier for the home brewing after you did the raising the ABV? They were more accepting after they already voted to raise the ABV?
Absolutely, and we saw that when it came up for committee review, committee votes, and then full floor votes. And we had a few questions, and one, we got our bill sponsor and some of the people that would get up. The politicians would get up and present the bills for a vote, but we educated them very well and presented them, here's the questions that probably be asked, and questions would pop up and they could fire right back, and people that asked questions would go, okay, and they'd sit down, and it wasn't real. We had hardly any real serious debate on the homebrewing side, and I expected it, but it sailed right through, and I was pleased.
Awesome. And then, for those watching, for those listening, you should go to YouTube. But for those watching, check out Craig's rig. Well, that sounds weird. I knew it. I was going to say, check out Craig's home brewing rig behind him.
You sure that's not to make lobsters or something?
Oh, that
makes lobster.
That thing is legit. He can make lobster in one and brew in the other. Perfect. So, but as we were talking before the show started, you have a couple brews in the works. What kind of beers do you usually like to make?
Probably the one I do more often is Russian Imperial Stout. That's my favorite.
Ooh.
I brewed that yesterday, and I've actually got one in a whiskey barrel, and then I've got another one in secondary that will most likely go to a whiskey barrel here soon. That and Belgians, and then occasionally I do some easy drinking stuff. I've got a 5-tap kegerator right over here you can't see, but we had a big St. Patty's parade, and I took every keg I had to that parade, so it's actually empty right now. So I'm trying to catch up and put some some beer in it. But I like to do cream ales and kolsches and so, some of the lighter stuff and occasional IPAs. But I also compete. I like homebrew competitions, so I will brew whatever I think I can enter and win.
That's awesome.
Very
I mean,
Brian, how does that make you feel as a home brewer?
Mike,
Now,
Mike and I just did a 5-gallon batch. What, a year ago?
I know, yeah, we gotta get back into it. Yeah.
Oh, we'll get back to it, but and I have to give you more props, Craig, because you mentioned you have a day job as well. So I can't imagine balancing a 9 to 5 as well as tackling government is just got to make you some sleepless nights.
Yeah, it does. I do have a day job that's not beer related, and that surprises a lot of people. They say, "Wait, beer's not your job." And so, but yes, I have the day job, and I actually have a family and 2 kids. So it's kind of taking its toll, and that goes back to me saying I'm a little tired right now, and I kind of want to relax. I'm going to stay part of Raise Your Pints for sure, but right now we don't have an immediate legislative goal. We've got people coming at us and say, "Why don't y'all do this? Why don't y'all do that?" And really what we tackled the last few years was, for the benefit of the consumer, and now we're getting asked to tackle issues that will benefit businesses, and that's great. But, like I said, I've been working for free for all those years, and,
Yep.
it's, how far can I go? I don't know.
I hear you. I mean, and so while the battle for homebrewing in Mississippi has come to an end, but homebrewing is just beginning. One of the links in our show notes, I think it's the second one down, is talking about Alabama. And Alabama, as we talked about in the same episode, it's the only state now that can't legally homebrew. So it says the Alabama's Brewers Guild is pleased to announce that their House Bill 530 has been introduced in Alabama and is expected to receive a hearing this Wednesday, which is April 17th. So here's to hoping for a better outcome for them as well.
Absolutely. I'm pulling for them because that's my home state. That's where I grew up and raised and went to college, and at South Alabama is where I'm actually from, and I'm pulling for them too.
Awesome. Well, we're going to keep on pressing on with some of this news here. I'm going to hop around the show notes, not in any kind of order.